Hey there, hope you're doing well. So today I decided to do a video purely based on getting LinkedIn connections. And the reason for this is a lot of people struggle with getting business via LinkedIn. And I think it's because most of the time people are trying to skip straight to the final step, which is getting on a phone call and maybe closing the deal even. But the thing is, before that even happens, a lot of steps need to happen. You need to, yeah, this is me doing my notes. You need to get connections, then you need to work on getting replies, then, of course, getting calls, follow up calls, and then, of course, closing the deal. So, this is going to be, as you can see here, a 5-part series. And I'm going to cover what it takes to get into or achieve each part consistently within your ICP, because that's, of course, incredibly important as well. Yeah, and for those who don't know, that is your ideal client profile. So these are the people you're going to be targeting. There is no point building out a profile with thousands, tens of thousands of people if they're not going to buy from you. Ultimately, if you're like me, I use social media purely for gaining business. It's not for anything else, transparently. And therefore, I only want people on my profile who can benefit potentially from my services. That's how I'm building it out. So we're going to be focusing on gaining connections. And within that, I'm of course going to be talking through the LinkedIn Everything system and how this helps to achieve it. And the main parts that focus on getting connections is, of course, you've got your search, so the standard, you've got the outreach, which is this one here, and then we have the engagement system down here. So these are the only 3 parts that you need just to get connections. And the only parts that you should focus on, let's say, to begin with. If you're coming from zero, there's not much point trying to understand, okay, what is going to be my messaging strategy? What's going to be my check and reply strategy? What's going to be all these other bits and bobs? Ultimately, your first goal is just to get people to connect to your profile that are within your ICP. Within that is also your profile. So your profile needs to have some sort of, let's say, relevance towards these people, and it needs to align so that they can consider themselves or they will want to connect with you. So this includes, of course, having a name, having a good headline, having a good or very simple thumbnail picture, having a good thumbnail picture, good photo, of course, your about section, services, featured. Don't put your most liked posts here, just put the ones that are actually relevant. And then, of course, you have some posts and then what you do. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be ridiculous, but something that shows professionalism will, of course, allow people to want to connect with you. Once you've got your profile sorted, which, by the way, there are tons of videos out there on how to make your LinkedIn profile look good. ChatGPT will be able to give you list upon lists and recommendations and so on. I'm not really there for that. I'm going to be focused purely on, as I mentioned, getting those connections. So the first part, we have, of course, the LinkedIn searching system. So the one I've built here, which you can purchase or build yourself through Unipile and Airtable. This is built through Unipile and Airtable. Unipile. So this is the Unipile system, and it essentially has a direct connection via API to LinkedIn, Instagram, WhatsApp, Calendar, whatever, you name it. It's got a lot of different platforms that it can benefit and be useful for. I'm primarily using it for LinkedIn. And this is set to go off at multiple times a day. So I've got it set to go twice a day on this one, but depending on how many leads you would wish to collect, you could have it set 2, 3, or even more times a day. This is up to you. And you can have it set to search via either LinkedIn, like a normal searcher. If I was to go up here and just click into the search bar and search for CEO, and then click people, and then, for example, all filters, and just do a very basic filter. Let's say I just wanted to target people in the UK. I wanted them to be a part company of Microsoft, Harvard, and okay, yeah, whatever. Let's just do that. I've made my filters such as this. Very straightforward. Now, and you can also do it via a Sales Navigator as well. So if I just bring up Sales Navigator, you can see here, same principle. You've obviously got a lot more filters, which you can bring it down by, and this is incredibly useful. If you want to target a very specific company size, a company headcount, then I would highly recommend using this because it allows you to target companies that are smaller or bigger or whatever. That means you're not going to be targeting people that are outside of your potential bracket. Most likely when you're starting out, you're not going to be working with the multi-billion-dollar, even million-dollar companies. You're going to be starting with people in the 100K, 200K bracket. Well, that's what you're going to be initially aiming for. And the longer you work and the more you do, the higher the business or the higher the amount, the bigger the company you can work for. Generally, this is how it goes. Obviously, there are exceptions to this, but it pays to start at the right place. You can, of course, as well, do further searches here, such as you can do industry in the free one as well. And of course, past job titles, years in company, first name, last name. So, or of course, if they recently changed company, if you want to look at someone who's recently changed company, that's of course possible as well. You may also want to look at, let's say, for example, you want to find people that, or companies that are purely growing. So here, let's say you want to find companies that are in the 5 to 10,000 that are growing by 20% year on year or 20% head growth count, then you can put that in here as well. And then it limits it even further. Then you know these companies are growing. So again, there are plenty of videos out there on the LinkedIn search and how it works. And I'd highly recommend spending some time looking into that, testing different ones and seeing if there are profiles that can be useful for you. The search that I'm using is this one here. So perform API LinkedIn search and export results. And you can see you just copy and paste the URL. So be it the one with, if it has sales in it, that means it's from Navigator. If it has it without the sales, you can see here, it's just search. It means it's just a normal one. And yeah, here I've got the link in the Airtable itself. So if I go to the cursor storage, and I've got the link here. So this is where it's pulling it from. And then of course the cursor. The cursor you will need to get initially just from the search itself. So when you click into this and you click the play button and you do the search, you will need to get the search without the cursor in it initially. So you'll want to remove this, delete it initially, and then just add the URL in here. So just copy and paste, put the URL like this, and then it will do that. Okay. I'm just going to refresh this because I don't want it to be there. And then it's going to pull 10 people each time, and it's going to split them out, and then it will update them and add them into a table. And then, of course, you'll extract the cursor so that you can then start from the next page. Now, with your ICP, there are a few ways to define it. You can pretty much these days just type into an AI tool of your choice and just be like, this is my business, this is my brand, this is the country I work in, these are the people I want to work with, and it will create an ICP for you. And then, of course, yeah, you can further develop that should you wish to have one that works specifically for LinkedIn or for Instagram or for wherever you're trying to find people. This is how it works. You may find you're being restricted on some things depending on what you're willing to pay for, but that's part of the learning process. Here we are. So I did a B2B marketing course where I coached a number of people, and I had one on, here we are, the ICP workbook. Here we are. So this is a basic ideal client avatar workbook, very straightforward. And you can see here, this is one I made quite a while ago when I used to be working just as a social media manager. But this is the age, speaking English. These are the occupations, income, pretty low at that point, degree, someone willing to pay for additional support, goals, values, pain points, sources, objections to buy. Now, transparently, you don't even need all of this for LinkedIn for the LinkedIn search. You only really need this information over here. However, it's really important to create this information, like goals, values, challenge, pain points, source of information, objections to buy, because you need to understand, okay, what is the marketing you're going to be sending them? What are the messages that you're going to be sending to these people? How are you going to get them to want to speak with you? And if you don't know this, you don't understand them, then there's no way your product, they're going to understand you, and there's no way they're going to understand your product or have any reasons to why they should contact you. So really important that you fill this out and get this all sorted. So then once you've got your ICP, you'll then do the search and you'll then filter this through. I'd recommend then having this set to run a couple of times a day. 20 per day is more than that. More than that, and you probably need to be understanding, okay, am I sending the right profiles out? And of course, it is a numbers game. You can increase it to 30, 40, or as many as you want, really. But again, it's important to understand, are you actually doing the right outreach? Because you don't want to piss off a lot of people by sending them a message which doesn't align to them. Ultimately, if you're going to send people messages, you want it to be something they're going to be grateful for. So once you've got the LinkedIn search done, then of course we're going to look at the outreach. Now, outreach works in a few different ways, and this is the system that does it. And this system here, it works on filtering out if a profile has been checked, and then it'll sort them into the various levels. So already connected, pending, not connected, and so on. So you can see if I go onto my lead list, I've got everyone from pending, second messages, delayed, not active, replied. Here are the replied ones. Here we go. To down here, not connected, not checked. Very straightforward. Everyone has been, every type of connection status, if I open them up here, has been accounted for. And obviously I've got delays in there as well. Should I wish to delay them for whatever reason, this is built into the workflow itself, and something that once you learn how to build it or added it, you can certainly do yourself as well. You can see all these if nodes depending on if pending, if connected, if date. So if they haven't been active for a few months, it will filter them to disappear and not be checked anymore. And then anyone who is not pending and has been checked will then be, of course, not connected. And then they'll get a request. And again, you set this up to run as many times as you want. I would say 2 to 3 times a day to begin with. Keep this number relatively low, and then increase it as time goes on. Add 2 every 2 weeks per load. So then, it's doing like an extra 6 on average per day, and then increase it like that. Slowly but surely. And here we're then sending a connection request, and that comes with a little message. If you have the free account, you're not going to be able to send a message. This is obviously in here. So I've got the connection message, first message, second message, simple as that. But if you've only got the free account, then you're not going to be able to do this, in which case just do a connection request. It's entirely up to you. I would recommend just getting some sort of LinkedIn subscription if you're going to be automating it, because ultimately the cost is it could lead to maybe LinkedIn police grappling at you, and there could be other costs which could be more annoying. And in the end, it's a small amount of money if it means that you get business. This is how you have to be thinking of it, as an investment to be able to achieve what you want. Then from that, once they have been sent a request, I have it here, and this I feel is really important, is to then engage on their profile. And so anyone who gets a connection request from me I'll check their posts. So this is checking their posts. We'll split them out, check if it's a repost, check the date it was done, comments, look at the comments, check if I've commented. And then it will use an AI persona that I've created in the AI agent. So you'll obviously have your own one of these. Super important that you craft this and take the time to look into it. And then once you've got the AI persona, it'll then create comments to you and then like them and so on. So really easy way to engage on people. And that increases obviously the chances of them replying to your messages, be it positive or negatively, because ultimately that's what you want someone to do. You want someone to reply to the connection request or reply to the messages you're going to send out afterwards. And by engaging on their profile, you do that. Without that, there's almost no chance they're going to see you, because you're only going to send them one thing and then there's nothing else after that. They need to have probably some notifications coming from their side for them to even consider wanting to engage with you. And of course, this full system, it's built with a Unipile. For those who are unaware, it's this website here. So everything is available on these on this documentation, all the API references, whatever, everything is available here. And you can ask an AI tool to Perplexity or ChatGPT or whatever to build out a lot of these for you, to save a lot of time. You can get the call request. So if you go into, here we are. If you go to API requests, and this is list all accounts, which is the one that's used for finding the accounts that are connected. But let's say we want to look at the users. You want to retrieve a profile, and that's your own profile. Retrieve a profile. Here we go. So this is the one that is used a lot for getting people's details, if you haven't already. And this is, you can see here, get provider ID. So this is here to get their ID. You may have already achieved this by getting it anyway via this bit up here in the search. It does provide it. But the get provider ID also searches and finds out if they are connected to you or not, which is why it's here right now. It's not down here because we don't need to know. If they're being sent a request, we already know they're not connected and so on, and then they don't need to go anywhere else. But it will, of course, filter them. If it's been ignored, it will ignore them, and if it hasn't, then it will put them to pending, in which case, all totally fine. And do note, if you want to learn how to build this system yourself, I do have full videos on the LinkedIn Everything system, which do go into a bit more detail on how to code this. But again, this is purely focusing on how do we get connections. Okay, so we're not going into anything else here. We're just focusing on the connections, okay? Now, what would be a good amount of connection requests to be accepted? Typically, I would say if at least 50% of the people that you're sending a connection request to are accepting your request, I would say you're doing a fairly good job. Anything above that, fantastic. It means you're generally aligned with your ICP, your profile aligns, the people you're connecting with are aligned, all is well. However, if you are sending requests and it's much lower, let's say in the 10 to 20%, and only 10, 20% of people are connecting with you, then it might be an indication that you need to do something to improve, be it your profile or targeting different people. Because maybe you haven't got your ICP correct, and maybe you're not aligned in the way that you think you are. So there's always, in this instance, it's always a case of, it's not them, it really is you. It really is your own self that can be your success or your failures, and just making sure you understand that will allow you to have more of it. Now, last but not least, of course, I do have the LinkedIn engagement system. Now, as mentioned, it is, of course, engaging on these profiles already. And there's two ways you can set this up based upon my use and our clients' use and so on. And one is from anyone who you send a connection request to, you could put them into an engagement list so that they are likely to increase the chances of them connecting with you. So you're engaging on their posts and so on and so forth. You can see it looks very similar to this one up here. The only difference is it has a delay up there, because if they've not done any of if it is a repost, or if it's a date is too soon or too late or whatever, or all these things, comments, we've already commented, it will delay them. As simple as that. And it is also moving people from one place to another so that we know to engage on them, and very straightforward. Okay. So as mentioned, you could use this for anyone that is potentially you're connecting with, or in my case, for example, I only use this on people that have replied to my messages on the messages that I'm sending out via this system. So not every message that's going out, just the ones that are replying to my system. And again, of course, AI persona, very straightforward, all nice and simple. So the whole point of all of these free tools is purely just to getting connections. And once you've learned that aspect, you can then start thinking about, okay, now I'm getting a number of connection requests coming through, and that seems to be good. You can then start looking into, okay, what messages do I send them? And obviously, everyone that has been connected, so you can see here, these are all people that have been connected with recently. What will happen is in the Airtable, it'll update them like this if you use this system. So you'll see everyone that is connected to your database. You can keep them there for a while. It doesn't matter if you send them a message 2 days later or 1 day later or a week later or 2 weeks later. Ultimately, I found people that I've messaged, I think even a year later after connecting with them, due to me just not needing the business, have then decided to work with me. I wouldn't worry about having to do this so systematically right off the bat. But anyway, once you've got their connection message, you'll be able to check when they're added and when, of course, they are last updated. And then you can then start filtering them through them getting their first message. So you can then add the first message, then the second message, and you can start testing out that thing. Of course, with that, you'd have to check up the other areas such as checking replies and so on. And so, yeah, that is getting connections on LinkedIn via the LinkedIn Everything system. As mentioned, if you want to get access to the system straight away and you don't want to have to spend hours going through the Unipile documentation, believe me, I spent a number of months doing this. You can purchase it now on Gumroad. This month it's still going for $18. Next month it will be doubling to $36. There is a tutorial video on it as well, and there's further videos on how to set up on my channel. But of course, if you have any questions or you want to ask or want to understand something more, just feel free to reach out to me via email or my LinkedIn or whatever method you prefer. And I'm, of course, more than happy to respond. And in the end, ultimately, this system is for getting you clients. That is the point of it. And that's what I want it to achieve from you. Have a wonderful day and looking forward to hearing how this works for you. Thank you.